What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the latest episode of Blue Chips. I am the authentic one, Mr. Matty Kiwoom. First and foremost, make sure you are subscribed here at Rookie HQ. Make sure you're subscribed to the Player Profiler podcast feed wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the Blue Chips feed as well. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, hit a comment button, 5-star review, all the jargon. Do all the things to help this show blow up when it comes to views, when it comes to listens, all that good stuff. Help your boys out here over at Player Pro. Today's episode on Blue Chips, we're going to look ahead, everybody. The NFL draft has come and gone. We now have logos on helmets where these rookies will be playing in 2026 and beyond. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to look ahead at the 2027 class. I was on Mind of Mansion with my guy Matt Kelly, the Podfather, and we talked a little bit about the 27 class and how different it is than the 26 class. The 26 class wasn't all that, it just wasn't great. It just did not leave us fantasy managers inspired. But Blue Chips here, we're going to talk about the 2027 class. We're going to talk about some of the prospects here. I'm not going to do a full-on mock. If you want a mock draft, go to playerprofiler.com. I have a way too early 2027 mock up on the site, and you can check out each and every pick 1 through 32 right there at playerprofiler.com. But what I want to do now is just kind of do a brief look ahead. Talk about some of the players. Because the mock stuff, of course, it's silly, it's for fun. We're trying to predict the future, but we're also trying to figure out draft spots and who declares. There's a lot to go into it, so I don't know if it's as useful here to talk about. I do believe I want to talk about some of the players. And let's start with the overall scope of the class. We're looking at anywhere from 4 to 6, I would say, first round potential quarterbacks. We're talking about not 1, but 2, potentially 3 surefire wide receiver 1 types. Would have been the number 1 wide receiver in this class by far. And I like Carnell Tate. I like Jordan Tyson. Those are my 1 and 2 of the class in 26. But 27, you're looking at Jeremiah Smith. You're talking about Ryan Coleman Williams, artist formerly known as Ryan Williams from Alabama. And, of course, Mr. Cam Coleman from Texas. Those are 3 wide receivers. And then, of course, you also have Duffy from Rutgers. You have Deuce Robinson, 6'6", athletic freak from Florida State. You have Nick Marsh going to Indiana. There's so much going on in terms of the prospects and the studs here. You're gonna have some edge rushers. I mean, we're talking about a lot of really foundational type of players, and so I would like to go through and preview some of these. Early, of course, but it's okay. We're gonna dive into it. And the first guy I'm gonna bring up is the name we're going to hear throughout the summer, the name we're seeing at the top of a lot of mock drafts, if you look through everyone's way too early mocks, the guy with the name recognition, Mr. Arch Manning. Arch Manning is going back to Texas, will be the day 1 starter. His first year as a starter in 2025 had some ups, some downs, finished with 2,900 passing yards, 24 passing touchdowns, only 5 picks, pretty decent ratio for first-time starter. 62% completion percentage, which leaves a little bit to be desired, but we saw flashes of him as a rookie. We saw a player that has the goods. 6'4", probably going to be about 210 pounds coming into this year. And then you look over at the rushing yards, 362 rushing yards last year's first year as starter. And, the reports coming out that his shoulder was a little banged up. His mechanics weren't always on target because of that first game against Matt Patricia at Ohio State, who had not 1 but 2 but 3 top 12 defensive players drafted this past NFL draft. So Arch Manning comes in. He is to be talked about because Arch Manning is going to be the most popular name He is going to have a runway to be the 101. If he goes nuclear, if he puts together a Heisman Trophy-esque season, if he leads the Longhorns to a national title, we're talking about the guy who will be number 1 overall with a bullet. And then, of course, you have Dante Moore, who was in contention to be the number 1 quarterback taken this year. If Dante Moore came out, the Raiders were on record saying, they had a decision to make. They were not dead set on Fernando Mendoza. Could he have been the number 1 quarterback even if Dante Moore was in the class? Sure, of course. It's Fernando Mendoza, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, all-around dog when it comes to that quarterback position. So, of course, he could have been the number 1 regardless. But Dante Moore, if he wasn't number 1, was number 2. The Jets would have not Geno Smith penciled in as their number 1 quarterback. They would have Dante Moore penciled in, looking to throw to Garrett Wilson, hand the ball off to Breece Hall, to Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper Jr., Adonai Mitchell. It would be Dante Moore would be the number 2 overall pick. So we expect him to put together a Heisman Trophy type of season, a Oregon Duck national championship caliber season. He will be amongst some of the top. The next guy I want to talk about at quarterback, though, is Trinidad Chambliss. Trinidad Chambliss going back to school for his 6th season, I believe. Had to go through the court systems in Mississippi and do that whole thing. I'm not even going to get into that because I really don't know exactly how that worked, but he gets granted another year of eligibility, 6 feet, 200 pounds, and he really took the college landscape by storm last year. Led the Rebels to the playoffs, even after the Lane Kiffin debacle, almost 4,000 passing yards, 66% completion percentage, 22 TDs to 3 INTs, also added 527 rushing yards. If he would have come out this year, which I think if hindsight being 2020, maybe he would have benefited from coming out in 2026 because he could have been a player that could have been the Jets quarterback. I just talked about Dante Moore. Could have been Trinidad Chambliss. He could have been QB2 in this class. He has that type of talent. He's not really going to have the breakout age. He's not really going to have the analytic community, setting themselves ablaze with excitement because late breakout took the long route to the Power 5 program, going to smaller schools and gradually going up and up and up in talent. But having said all that, the QB models when it comes to these NFL teams, they're getting a little bit older and older. They're not so gung-ho on the young guys, the young breakouts, the moldables. They want some guys with maturity, some guys that have some development, some IQ. The Parcells test for quarterback evaluation is as strong, it is as praised as it has ever been, which talks about college degree, college starts, years out of high school. There's a lot that goes into it other than the analytical production profile. Trinidad Chambliss, if he has another good year at Ole Miss, leads the Rebels back to the playoffs, SEC caliber champion, that high-end Power 5 performance. Trinidad Chambliss is my early prediction to be a sleeper top 5-10 pick based on who comes out. Lenore Sellers, Julian Sayin, Darian Menza, Mustamaker going from North Texas. Mustamaker, I'm gonna have to get his name under wraps. But I got plenty of time. Come on, it's May. It's gonna be May. Had to do it. Sorry. But Trinidad Chambliss, for me right now, I think he's a guy that could be a first-round pick, really good player. Mustamaker, let me get back to Mustamaker, North Texas, Oklahoma State. There's a lot of players. I mean, Brendan Sorsby was another guy that we were talking about potentially being a first-round pick. Now I might have to come out in the supplemental draft because this whole gambling fiasco. Don't know. Not going to touch that. Not going to talk about that. But the QB landscape is loaded, and I'm going to continue to talk about this loaded 2027 class, so stick around.
Ooh, trade just came in on my phone. Let's see. Should I make it? I don't know. I want to make a move now, though. I don't want to wait to get back to my computer. What do I do? Oh, we have the Dynasty Dominator app that scores a trade based on our lifetime value rating at playerprofiler.com. We also give you just a price lookup tool with the ADP to say, what is this guy really worth? And the app has a player comparison tool to juxtapose the advanced metrics of two players. This is $5 in the App Store. That's it. So we want you to do deep research on playerprofiler.com, but we also want you to be able to make moves in the moment. So go get that Dynasty Dominator now. It's in the App Store. It's on Google Play. And you can thank me later.
The authentic one, Mr. Matty Kiwoom here. Blue Chips 2027 class. We're going through it. So massive amount of QB hype going into this year. A lot of players at that position. Going to get the first round draft grades. Potentially push into that first round. And we talk about quarterbacks. Got to talk about edge rushers. There's two that I want to bring up. Dylan Stewart from South Carolina and Colin Simmons from Texas. These are two kids that have the pedigree, the talent profile, the production profile, the prospect pedigree, everything you need to be a top 10 pick, to be the number one overall selection is all going to be there. Now, will they be number one overall? Probably not, because at the end of the day, these quarterbacks are so hyped that if a team that doesn't need a quarterback lands with the 101, they're probably going to trade out and get a king's ransom for, Dante Moore, Archer Manning, Trinidad Chambers, whoever. But I want to bring these kids up because they are, 101 type talent. Now, things can change. This time last year, we were talking about edge rushers like TJ Parker, potentially being, that round one, that top 10 kid. And even though he pretty much stayed high in my big board throughout, he ended up falling out of the first round, going to the Bills in round number 2. So, of course, things can change. But they also have DJU. His brother Mateo went back to Oregon. That is a round 1 caliber edge rusher at this point in time. And you got some D linemen too, some guys that are in the interior that really have some hype. John Henry Daly from Michigan, Amari Washington, another Oregon monster on that defensive line. And then, of course, the probably one of the most hyped prospects in the the defensive lineman, that defensive interior position, David Stone from Oklahoma, who, that defensive line at Oklahoma is going to be ferocious. It projects to be absolutely devastating, nasty at stopping the run, getting after the quarterback. And if it projects out the way it is looked to do so, kind of said that weird, David Stone could absolutely be, that top 12, top 10-esque pick. So some absolute hype there. Offensive line, we're looking at Carter Smith from Indiana. We're talking about Jordan Seaton from LSU. He's got a lot of hype. Seems like he will stick and be that traditional left tackle, that franchise guy. Trevor Gooseby from Texas, another surefire potential left tackle. So now we're talking about edge rushers, being a couple of them being top 10 talent, 6 potential first-round quarterbacks, 2 or 3, maybe even more offensive linemen that are already getting that first round hype, and we know what happens with that position. It might be 3 or 4 in my early mock. It'll be 6, 7 come my actual mock in April of next year in 2027. So there's just a lot of talent that is going to be thrust into the NFL via the 2027 draft class. And we're looking at some teams that are just salivating. I mean, the Jets, if they built a little bit this year, they could build a lot of bit in next year's draft. They, if they could get where their pick lands, maybe top 5. But then they also, again, remember, they have the Colts first-round pick again next year. So they're looking like they could make absolute waves. The Cowboys have the Packers first-round pick. So even if the Cowboys and the Packers are both like playoff or fringe playoff teams, they could package that and move up in the class. So there are 2 teams already with 2 picks, which, you're going to want to have those extra bullets heading into the 2027 class. It's that good. Now, when we talk about tight end, my favorite tight end so far in this class, Trey Green from LSU. There's 2 right now that are getting the big hype going into the season. I mean, again, way too early. Let me pull it up here because I just want to make sure I get this kid's measurables right. He's a monster, and that is why. No, this isn't him. This is a different Trey. But anyway, Trey Green, LSU, again, being part of this Lane Kiffin offense, being in, playing with Sam, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Wow, I'm drawing a huge blank on the kid's name from LSU quarterback. Let me just do this. Let me just go here. Let me just absolutely backtrack because my brain's a bit melting here because now I am just completely lost in the sauce here. I'm just the 27th class. It gets you flustered. All right, here we go. We're gonna go into this here. I'm gonna pull this up because, and if you're listening, you're just hearing me ramble. Go ahead and hit that 10-second boost, and you'll be happy that you did. All right, we're here now at LSU. We're talking quarterbacks here, and we are talking tight end. Okay, so let's go here. Let's go to Trey Des Green. This is where it all points, and the folks that just plus 10-second me, they're back. So 6'7", 240 pounds, had 433 receiving yards last year, 7 TDs, had an average catch depth of catch at 13 yards, athletic freak, 5-star prospect coming into his college career. And again, when we're talking about the evolution of a tight end in college, 100 receiving yards as a freshman, didn't really play last year. He had 433 yards. He's going to be going to his junior year, his first draft eligible year, being a potential monster. I mean, double-digit touchdown, possibility. That is absolutely on the table for a kid like Trey Des Green, who is my number one tight end going into the year. The other tight end that looks like he would potentially get some round one buzz is Jamari Johnson from Oregon. This Oregon team's going to be loaded. A lot of fun players to watch, and that's not even talking about their stud wide receiver that's not eligible for 2027, but more will be eligible in 2028. So we got a lot of loaded talent at Oregon. The Ducks are going to be sick to watch this year. Cornerbacks, the number one corner in this class, Leonard Moore, Notre Dame. He's got the most hype. He's that quintessential island cornerback. The guy, would probably have been number one corner in this class with a decent margin. Got the size, the athleticism, the shutdown ability, and is going to play for Marcus Freeman in that really strong fighting Irish defense. You got Ellis Robinson, who I really like. Ellis Robinson, the fourth from Georgia. Kelly Jones from Mississippi State. So we're talking about a number of potential first-round corners as well. I mean, you're always going to have these positions in round one, but having players that would be, vying for the number one in 2026 class, having 3 of them, having multiples, this is why this class is so dirt nasty. It's why it's so good. We might get 2 potential safeties. My favorite being Corey Myrick from Clemson. So there's just a lot of talent overall. In my mock, a way too early mock, not even a 1.0, just way too early mock. Again, you can check it out. Got 2 running backs potentially going. So for us fantasy managers, again, we're really, really, really excited for what's to come when it comes to this class. It's absolutely loaded. It's crazy to think the staunch difference of 2026 to 2027. Now, where I want to end here today, the place that we need to end at is wide receiver, because we love that class a couple of years ago that had Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze. This class projects to be maybe better. I think maybe he's being a little too conservative. I think it's definitely better. I think by saying it's maybe better is being being a little kitty cat, kind of not really taking the bull by the horns. I think this is going to be better. And it starts at the tippity top. The player that could be the 101 in next year's draft will be the 101 in rookie drafts for fantasy, but also could be the 101, the first wide receiver taken first overall since I think Keyshawn or maybe ever. And that's Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith is going to be, he's going to break grading scales. He's going to be the highest grading wide receiver prospect since Calvin Johnson. And if he can ball out again, maybe he surpasses if the testing is there. The thing about Calvin was just so big, so fast, so absolutely devastating when it comes to testing. But if Jeremiah Smith can put that on wax as well, I mean, it's going to be hard to deny this kid as the most supreme, superior, elite wide receiver prospect of all time. In his 2 years at Ohio State, here are his stat lines, which is just absolutely absurd. 76 receptions as a true freshman, 13-15 in the receiving, and 15 touchdowns. 15 touchdowns as a freshman for the Ohio State Buckeyes. And he followed that up last year with 87 receptions, 1243, and another 12 receiving touchdowns, and he's big, he's fast, he's polished, he's a man amongst boys, even though he's a kid himself. 6'3", 225 pounds. There is no one on the planet that can stop Jeremiah Smith. He is the Thanos. He is the eclipse. He is the mountain you can't climb. He is the guy that has been the mainstay on a roster that has produced number one pick or round one receiver after round one receiver after round one receiver. Emeka Egbuka on the team, doesn't matter. He's the best player in 2024. This past year, Carnell Tate, 4th overall pick, doesn't matter. He's the number 2 on the team because Jeremiah Smith is there. He is of the Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, the Garrett Wilsons, the Chris Olaves, the Emeka Egbukas, the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, of all of this supreme talent at wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith is the best. He is the best of the bunch. Again, could be the number 1 overall pick in the entire 2026 class. He is that dang good. Now, the next guy I do want to bring up is not necessarily a guy that's going to have the production profile, because last year just did not really, it just wasn't as fruitful in the production realm of things. But the prospect profile is there, and I'm talking about Mr. Cam Coleman. So as a freshman, 598 receiving yards last year, 708. He's had 13 touchdowns in his career at Auburn. But here's the skinny, folks. He's decided to leave the Tigers and head over to Austin, Texas to be Arch Manning's number 1 receiver. 6'3", 200 pounds. Looks like, I don't know, he kind of reminds me of either A.J. Green, maybe even Julio Jones if he could pack on some muscle, some weight. True freak. Would be, early on in my scouting process, would have been the number 1 wide receiver prospect in 2026 by far. And again, I like Carnell Tate. I like Jordan Tyson. Cam Coleman has a chance to absolutely explode onto the prospect scene, put together a 1,000-yard receiving season, maybe way more with Arch Manning, and truly take over the landscape and really kind of bridge that gap between, Jeremiah Smith in the field. Jeremiah Smith's going to be the number 1. I mean, he's just so good, and everyone's seen it coming a mile away. And I like to say this all the time. When it comes to my scouting, I do look back. I do think about what I used to envision, what I used to see, because you see the best ones coming from a mile away. Yeah, sometimes they surprise you, but most of the time it's like Jeremiah Love. We've been talking about Jeremiah Love for years. It's Bijan Robinson. We talked about Bijan Robinson for years. It was Saquon Barkley. We talked about him for years. Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison. We talked about them for years. Hey, what is that over there? What's that down there? Oh, that's a big time prospect. You can see him coming my way. Cam Coleman is that type of player, but has kind of struggled on the producing side of things because of the offense that the Tigers have had on the field these last 2 seasons. But don't get it twisted. We're talking about a straight up and down like 6 o'clock wide receiver, 5-star blue chip prospect that came out of high school, and now we'll get to kind of reach some of that potential being Arch Manning's number 1 receiver. And we've seen a ton of clips coming out from the spring, the connection, and Arch isn't even on the field full-time yet. He's still kind of coming back, getting used to getting rehab, and Cam Coleman is balling out in a big, big, big way. The next guy I want to talk about, Ryan Coleman Williams, I alluded to it at the top, had a true breakout season as a freshman, almost 1,000 yards. Last year had a really lackluster season, not really great, even though he had a first-round caliber quarterback as his signal caller for the Crimson Tide. But we still can't deny his abilities. We cannot deny his ceiling, and we cannot deny our eyes of what we saw back in 2024. So if Ryan Coleman Williams balls out, the 6 foot, 180-pound receiver, I mean, this is another stud type of receiver. Another kid that is really looking to be, that top half of round 1. And we're only talking top half of round 1 because of every talented player in 2027. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But that just isn't end there. KJ Duff, Rutgers, I mentioned him. Deuce Robinson is another player that we expect to be on the scene. A kind of a sleeper pick. I don't know if he gets into the round 1, but just a really good player. Isaiah, again, way early in the process, so I'll get the names down. Don't you worry. Isaiah Sategna, the third from Oklahoma. He's going to look to have a big year playing with, my guy over at Oklahoma, the gunslinger, John Mateer. But there's others. There's a guy we cannot forget of all this, okay? He's had hype for years, hasn't really materialized. But again, we have a lot of hopes for the South Carolina team. We're talking about Nick Harbor. If you play NCAA, the video game, you know who I'm talking about. 6'5", 235 pounds, runs like the dang wind. Had 618 receiving yards last year with 6 tutties. His best year as a collegiate athlete. But if he can get to that 1,000-yard season, if he could be Lenore Sellers' #1 target, we see those receptions because he had only 30 receptions on 52 targets. If we can see 60 receptions on 80 targets, we can really see that build up. Man, we're talking about a kid with unlimited ceiling, unlimited potential, smart kid. All the reports out of South Carolina is he's got a great feel for the game, great head for the game, great football IQ. It's just taken him some time to develop into a receiver because in high school he was just Obafemi. And if you're a wrestling fan, you know what I'm talking about. He was just a monster. Played defense, played tight end, played receiver, played all over the place. Wildcat quarterback. He was just a freak amongst, man amongst boys, a freak amongst everybody. Just dominated with his sheer athleticism. And with that comes some polishing, some development that is needed. But if he can develop, this is going to be his 4th year in college. He can get a little bit more maturation, a little more development, a little more, flavor to his routes, and isn't just relying on athletic ability, but can really be more of a wide receiver and not just a pass catcher. Nick Harbor is a player you're absolutely going to want to look out for in this year. And we're talking KJ Duff, Deuce Robinson, Nick Harbor. All 3 of these kids are 6'5 plus. So it's just a loaded class. It's just an absolutely sick 2027 class. And if you love evaluating talent like I do, this is going to be such a fun year of college football, such a fun year of scouting. That whole class is just going to be so much fun. And of course, not all of them will declare. It'll have its changes and alterations, and it's the evolution. That is obvious, but it's still going to be such a fun year scouting and preparing. And again, if you play fantasy football, which you probably do if you're here, tapping into Rookie HQ or Player Profiler, you want to get them 2027 picks, baby, because it's going to be a fun time. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you're subscribed to Rookie HQ or to the Player Profiler podcast feed. Wherever you get your podcast, leave a comment, a 5-star review, a like, all that good stuff. And then make sure you're going to playerprofiler.com for all things fantasy football, all things Dynasty, all things football players. I'm Matty Q, the authentic one, and I will see you next time. Bye.
It's important to me that all of our media be free, but it is you, the premium subscriber, with access to data analysis, the rankings, Dynasty Deluxe, DFS Dominator, the world-famous draft kit. You get that content and you make all of this possible. The free podcasts, articles, NFL draft content. So I must give a special thanks to all of our premium subscribers. You make all of this possible.